Zoom zoom!
Right, we're going to work on the gearbox in a minute, but first of all I'm just going to label these engines so I don't get them confused. This is my you didn't miss much. I put the flywheel on. So I switched the flywheel, right? I think I told you that. I was taking the flywheel off of my original Austin 7 engine that we just took out of the car. This is actually quite damaged, this flywheel, now that I look at it. The teeth in one section of it are very worn. But having said that, I cleaned up the surface, cleaned up everything, got the appropriate washer, right? And put that washer in the right location. I've got a feeling I should bend that over. I did not torque this up, I just tightened it, right? I mean quite a bit, tightened it. This goes in like this. See that play there? It needs to be centered. You put the tooth that's missing at 12 o'clock so you can orient the gearbox when you're putting it in. But now the problemo is putting this in. I thought maybe I could start the nuts and bolts, leave this loose, and then center it once I started the nuts and bolts. Number one problem is that to a T, every one of these bolts, the first half a dozen threads are stripped. Maybe it's a common problem with these. The BSF fine thread, I don't know if I have. BSF fine thread, I'm going to have a look in my little magic box here. There's 1, 2, 3 with threads stripped off it. This is shorter. The threads are good on that, but short. This is a longer one. No, the threads are good on that one. And this is a longer one. Threads are damaged, but not as bad as the other 3. So I misspoke. So not all 6 of them have got damaged threads. 3 of them have damaged threads. The problem is you need to be able to tighten this down, right? I guess I have to put a bar across here. I just looked it up and there's exact measurements they give you for tightening this down. You put that stud back in there. You know, one of the studs is missing off that bell housing. So put a bar across here with the hole. It said it was a 3/4 inch hole. I'll measure that. Bored in the metal strip, right? And hold that centered in there. See how it's moving? Has to be dead central, or the gearbox ain't going to fit in. I thought I could maybe get this started and then center that plate, but the problem is you can't even get, maybe this one will actually get a few threads in there. Yeah, it did, so I'm making a liar of myself. The others, because of the first half a dozen threads were stripped, would not tighten up there. This is tightening up. Awesome, awesome, awesome. But of course you can't tighten up too much. Don't tighten up too much. So let's move it around, move it around, move it around, be nice. So I just fabricated this. It's a piece of a TV bracket. Should work, I think. So we're going to put it on there. Somewhere on there. And across here to bolt on there. But first we need to measure that exactly. It was long and I just cut the end off it. But we know that'll fit in there and that'll fit in there. I'll put this stud in here. This is still moving a little bit. Right, so we should be able to still centre it up, I think. Laugh at me. You guys are gonna laugh at me. But I've used various different verniers back in college days, 35, almost 40 years ago. More than 40 years ago, good grief. But I've never used one of these. So the point is, at close there, with no oots on it, it should be at 0. If it's not at 0, then you have to loosen that and move the little clock face. So I'm just putting it right on 0, right? And then you open it, and these are tenths of an inch, right? So there's an inch. So I'm expecting this to be 0.75. So it'll be 0.75, because the little guy on the YouTube channel said it was 3/4 of an inch. There you go. Actually a wee bit more than that. So what does it say? It says, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. It's actually on 0.896. 0.896. So that's the size I need of a hole in the middle here, right? 0.96. So right in the middle here, I'm gonna drill that diameter hole so that passes through there, right? But first of all, we have to measure the exact distance between those two studs. I need to put the stud in. Right, 0.896, remember that. Got it? Good, I'm glad you got it. Didn't quite dawn on me, but of course there was no gearbox fitted to this, right? So the missing studs were missing completely. It's not as if I'd taken them off. So I just scavenged from a couple of the engines. When I was taking them out and taking the other gearboxes off, some of the studs came out instead of the bolts loosening, the nuts loosening. So I just went through a couple of the engines sitting there. There's 3 engines sitting there now, and I found the 3 missing studs. Right, so I'm going to use this, right, as a good central location. So we're going to measure outside to outside, and then we'll do centre to centre if we need to. Outside to outside is 11 inches exactly. I'm just going to get the width of this stud here, because to get the centre line I just do 11 inches less the width of one of these studs, and it's half and half, but that'll be so that is 0.279. The length from stud to stud is 11 inches, right? And we just measured it was 0.279 as the width of one of those studs. So centre line to centre line would be 11 minus 0.279 gives me 10.721. Quick mental arithmetic says that's right. And then half of that, I'm not going to go into that exact thing there, I'm just going to say 5.35. So 5.35 from there is going to give me my centre line. Let's just say that that's true. 5.35. 5.5 is there. 5.25. 5.35. Good grief. What's that in fractions? Who's good at that stuff? 5.35. So 5.25 is 5 1/4, right? So it's 5 1/4 is there, and no, 5 1/4 is there, 5.5 is there. 5.35. I could guess. 5.35 from 5.25 is 10. 0.10, 0.1 of an inch. Can't do 0.1 of an inch. How do you do that? It's 0.12. 5.25. Let's say it's there. Actually, I don't know how to do that. Jeez. I need my Google. So there's 5.5 is there. 5.25 is there. Somewhere in between that is what we want. It's embarrassing, I need to figure that out. My rough calculations, it was 5 3/8, and then I looked it up on the computer and it is 5 3/8 is the nearest decimal, right? So we're going to say that that is right. So there's 5 1/4, 5 3/8 is the next little graduation over. So we're going to do that, right? 5 2/8 1/4, 5 3/8, right? Yes, 1 2 3, 5 3/8 right there. So we're going to make a nice mark that's legible there. And that's going to be our center line right there, 5 3/8. And that should be, hold on, let's just, from there to here, we don't actually know, but that's a slot, so it should be fine. So we just need to make sure that that is in the middle. So you can watch, I'm going to put this on the vertical drill. poor old bench press drill has had it. Cost me $10 at a Collingswood used, so maybe the belt is finally worn out. I'm going to try and do this with a hand drill. It could be this conical drill. I don't have another, so this is it, I'm afraid. Anymore. What we're looking at, actually a wee bit big. Let's switch off. Get this centred on here, right? So I'm gonna have to be careful about this because it's slotted, right? So even if this fits over here, the tendency will be for this to just be where it is. You know what I mean? This is a slot here that I'm putting this one in. It fits, but whether it ended up centred or not, it's anyone's guess, isn't it? So let's see if we can get this in here. And then we'll put that there, first of all. Didn't think about that, did we? I just assumed that would fit in a hole there. Yes, it does fit in a hole there, but it's not lining up with that. What does that mean? Bolt there to the centre of that should be 5.35. 5 3/8 is what we're saying. Anything else, teeth? How are you supposed to measure that? It's 5.5. 5 3/8 would be there. Well, that could be the centre of that. It's 5 1/4. 5.5. 5 3/8 would be right there. It's not very exact, is it? Should we just try it and see? Oh, let me get you in here and you can have a look. I'm very aware of being right in front of you here. I'll try and zoom in. Okay, I've pretty much zoomed in as much as I can just now, and brought you down lower. So my problem is, you know, when I measured it, it looked as if it was roughly centred. So my question is now, you know, it can't move. They're just tighten up these nuts and bolts and hope for the best. Let's try it. So despite my best endeavours, the tooth, the missing tooth, is down at the just almost at the 7 o'clock mark here, which is not what I wanted. I wanted at the 12 o'clock mark. I didn't think of it when I was tightening that up. The gears have to be engaged. Now, sawdust all over it, of course. What do I need to do here? Oh dear. That's the problem with really not knowing what you're doing. Oh, actually, no, here, this is supposed to slip in. I always just jammed it in before. Gonna slot in, right? I don't know what the hell I'm looking at here. This is a problem. It appears there's no place for this gear shift to go right now, so take a screwdriver and fish that around a little bit. Let's stay vertical. Sorry about this, I'm kind of learning as I go along as usual. Big screwdriver. Big screwdriver. I think I need to move the gate over a bit. There seems to be a kind of little slidey bit. Can't remember how that works. Like that? No. I think that's the bit over. If that is over like that, there's no place for that gear shift to go. Right now, I couldn't slot that in if I wanted to. There's no place for the gear selector to go. There's also a little sliding bit over the top, which I think is supposed to slide all the way across to allow me to plug this in. Why ain't it doing that? Jeepers creepers. Okay, so I can't actually get it in gear right now. So I'm switching you off until I figure this out. I already made this mistake once. This is on front to back, back to front. The numbers have to be the front of the gearbox. So this box, this shape here, is in the wrong configuration. This has to be at the front. So I'll quick change that around. You guys must be sick watching me do this, but I'll do it really quickly. Remember these brackets that aren't standard in an Aston 7 are a bit of a problem. Now, as suspected, it's not at 7 o'clock, it's at 5 o'clock. 7 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock here, 7 o'clock there. I think that's roughly where the gearbox is going to hit me right in the nuts. Oh, wait a minute. These butts and bolts are going to get in the way, aren't they? The ones with the nuts on them. That's why they're studs, baby. That's why they're studs. We have 4 left, them that are studs. So if we can get this tooth to line up, we can just slot it right in. working on the centering tool. Marking it as exactly as I possibly could on both sides. It looks centred to me. According to this tool, it's as accurate as I can. You know, maybe it's my non-engineering background, but it looks as if it's spot on to me, as if the original premise was correct. Should I just try again? Could there be something else going on? We got the tooth engaged really easily. So that was one big plus, right? I'm not exactly sure what you guys can see when I'm offering it up like that. Oh man. I really apologise if I can't really capture this. I'm trying my damnedest. Right, now, so okay, we're just going to get ready. It's all good, baby. Still snowy outside. Some leg room. Battery charge up a little bit. I'm cutting some wooden blocks to block up the engine, just that depth. What is it, 1.5 inches, something like that? Might be enough. Four of them, right? Really old $5 garage sale saw. What's a treat, baby? But I think the drill bit that's in it is going to be right diameter. Good enough anyway. So let's get busy. I'm going to try and do it with this loose and then tighten it later. gearbox from the Opel, my car that I just took out, right? Remember the hole in the side there? That I tried to fix. This is oriented exactly the same as the other one, right? So that's the side. That does fit inside there. Right. And this here fits in like that. Let's just see where the tooth is. Let's put it at 12 o'clock. Put this one at 12 o'clock. It is. So that's it engaged. So do you need to compress that spring? Is that what's holding us up? Each one of those has to be, of course, that has to be out of the way. Look at that. How does that work? If that's in the way, then that will not close on that. Right? See this? Look at the bottom. See, it just slid down, but you know, if that's not perfectly, no, because it's all bolted in, right? So it can't possibly be getting in the way. And then bring that over here and look at this. What am I doing wrong? It would, this being loose would definitely stop it from tightening up, but it shouldn't stop it from going in there, right? Take it all off and start again? Surely not. I don't need to do that, do I? I mean, it's right inside here, so this is not stopping it from getting in. This spring might be. I'm just looking for some inspiration here, guys. I really don't know what's going on. Why it's giving me such trouble. All of these studs are getting beat up a little bit with me trying to do this. It's just not working out. I mean, thankfully these are good steel strong studs, so it's just wearing away at the aluminum housing of the gearbox. I mean, me knocking that over a bit certainly helped, and if we can get this entered and hanging on these studs, then I can tighten up these bolts, right? Or should I just try and tighten them up now? Is that? This is not the flywheel that came with this gearbox. That flywheel is over there. Is it possible the flywheels are different? This is a flywheel off of my Opel. It was the same setup as this gearbox and that clutch plate. They all seem to fit together really well. There's no reason to suppose that wouldn't work. Except that it's not working. Dear me. One last try. Should we try and move that to the 12 o'clock position now? Because we've got it to slide in, right? There it is, slid in. Well, if it's not the studs and it's something else, it's still like that centre bit catching on a tooth or something. It's highly unlikely, isn't it? Unlikely to be the studs. And I thought by wiggling it and having these bolts loose a wee bit, it would just eventually go in, you know. Those two top studs are in holes, right? Come on now, get in there. Did go in. See that? It's missing. Problem is none of them are tight enough to hold it in there. I should have come better prepared. All my nuts are over there. My nuts are over there. If I could just get that in enough to hold it in position. Is it going to stay? Get some nuts, tighten it up quick. What happened to the nuts? Quick, before it changes its mind. Oh man. Do we have any nuts? Probably not. Oh man. Oh my god, that was hard work. Oh my god, I have no nuts and bolts. Fit that, did we? That's part of our problem. You go. Oh man. See if any of these fit. No jeepers. No. Wrong thread. Actually, looks like the big thread. Oh. Don't know if those are the right thread or not. Two random bolts that I found. just some other old random nuts and bolts. So I'll get some threads on this just to hold it in, it doesn't fall out again, you know what I mean. There are no washers or nothing on these, so it's very random. Okay, thank goodness. Whew. That one ain't going to fit. Okay, so we got some, that was good. Right, now, so we need to tighten our flywheel back up again, right? Our pressure plate on our flywheel. Correct them in there. Oh man, I am in a full out sweat, man. It's cold outside and I don't even care. I've got the door of the garage open, as you remember.